Hi everyone, it's Evangeline here at eTrailer, and today we'll be taking a look at our Hollywood Rack's Destination 2-bike platform rack right here on our 2017 Hyundai Accent. So the Hollywood Rack's Destination 2 is probably going to be the lightest bike rack, one of the lightest bike racks that you will see on the market. It has a bunch of different features there just to make it a step above your basic bike rack. So we'll take a look at those different features just to see if it's the right fit for you, your bicycles, and your car. Another thing though about this bike rack is it's one of your more affordable bike racks too. So if you want something compact, affordable, and can even fit inside of your trunk, you might want to check out the rest of this video. This does have a weight capacity of 35 pounds per bike. So that's usually more than enough for your regular bicycles, but if you have extra heavy bicycles, even my women's bike is actually at 40 pounds, so that would be too heavy for this bike rack. Definitely something worth considering because you do get your pros and cons with a lightweight compact bike rack like this. Okay, let's talk about the way our bike is mounted to this bike rack. We have 3 mounting points. So that's going to be 1 and 2 wheel straps. Those are holding our bike's weight down. And then we also have this frame mount. So that frame mount wraps around your bike's frame and secures it to this small mast. This has an interesting frame mount design too because you have a 360 degree of rotation. So depending on where your frame is, you can go up, down, left, right, and even around. When you want to take your bike off though, you start at the wheel straps. So we have this lever here, press that lever, and then that will release the strap, allowing you to pull that up and out. And I like to just tuck it to the side of the wheel. That way it doesn't get tangled up in the spokes when I want to take my bike off. So do the same with the other strap and then go over here to our frame mount. Now you are going to have to figure out the best way to do this with your specific bicycle. What I do is I just wrap my hand around our frame, press that lever, and then I pull out on that strap right there. And then once that's disengaged, I can then tilt this back. So notice how we actually have a good amount of space between our bike rack and our car where I can tilt this back safely, and then I would just go over the mast and I'm ready to go on a bike ride. With the bike off, we get to take a closer look at the bike rack itself. One tip I have for you though is please put your straps away even if your bike isn't on. That way they're not flopping around as you drive around, and it's safer for your bikes or your bike rack as well. But notice how this ratchets down to secure your wheel. You also have this rubber piece, and this is going to help protect the top of your wheel. You also have this cradle over here. So notice how it angles downwards. That's an interesting design for a bike rack cradle. Here at eTrailer, we've begun to call it the wings of the bike rack. This is designed to help accommodate your different wheelbases, and then your strap just rotates to carry them. Now with any bike rack or really any hitch accessory, it's going to add some length to the back of your sedan. So we're going to take some measurements just to see exactly how much. Measuring from our bumper to the end of the bike rack, which is by these nice white reflectors, it sits at 23 inches of length. So that's actually pretty compact for a 2-bike platform rack. Still something to keep in mind though, whenever you back into your garage or try to park into a really tight spot, don't forget that you have bikes as well as a bike rack behind you. Now ground clearance is important with your sedan because your Hyundai Accent's hitch sits closer to the ground compared to other SUVs or trucks. So you will want things with shank rise. So we'll talk about that real quick. But our ground clearance is going to be measured from underneath the bike rack to the ground. It sits at 16 3/4 inches. Now at the bottom of the wings, it sits at 12.5 inches. Now compare those measurements with the measurement by the shank. That sits at only 8.5 inches. So ground clearance is important because when you go up those steep inclines like your driveways or your hills, your front will go up, your back will go down, and you'll want to be mindful that your bikes don't hit the ground. That's why a shank rise like this is important, because your bikes sit up higher up off the ground. Remember how we couldn't open our trunk earlier with our bikes on? Well, look at this now. We can fully open our trunk and get full access to it Definitely if you need to grab something large out of your vehicle and it's in your trunk, you will have to take your bike off. Now, with this down, let's move this bike rack into the portable position, which will also be the position you'll have it stored inside your trunk. The first thing we need to do is we need to lower the mast. So we have a knob as well as a stand here. You're gonna wanna rotate that knob just enough to loosen it. So don't take it off completely. Why will you loosen this? Well, you just need to lift this stand up and out of the way, and then you tighten that knob back down. After that, you are now able to pivot this back and forth. So just choose which side you want to secure this to. I pick this one. You will have to move your mounts around a little bit. And then what I do is I use one of the Cradle straps in order to secure the mast itself. And then in order to fold the bike rack up, that hinge right before the shank has a bolt and a clip. So take out that clip and then loosen this bolt. I kind of like that it's a bolt because then it's not like a pin I have to force out of the way. Once that's completely loose though, you can just let it drop because it has a string holding it up. And then this folds up just like that. And then you're gonna have another hole there, so line that bolt up with that hole and then secure it again with that pin. And now we have it folded up against our vehicle. So we'll take a look at some things. One is, can we still open our trunk? Yes, we can. And how much length is now added to the back of our Accent? Let's take some measurements. Closest point, I want to take a look at that first. Because it looks like it may come close, especially if you don't have your different masts or your different straps fully tightened down. So the closest point is going to be from the bumper to right where that cradle is. You have about 2 inches of clearance there. And then to where your bike rack frame is, it's about 3.5 inches. So plenty of clearance there. Notice how sturdy this is though, so it's not getting any closer than that. Length now added to the back of our vehicle. From the bumper again to the furthest point, which is by this hinge, that's 10 inches of length added. So big difference compared to when this was folded down. You'll definitely want it in this position when you're planning on driving around town and you're not planning on taking your bikes out, but you also don't want to take your bike rack off. But what's it like living with a bike rack behind you? If you look behind the vehicle, notice how obviously our rear window is completely visible. Our taillights are unobscured. Our license plate is open too. So as you drive along the road, you have a really, I guess sleek might be a word, or it's a compact bike rack behind you. It doesn't take up a lot of space. It's unobtrusive, and then you're both visible and legal on the road. Now let's talk about how our bike rack fits into our hitch. So our Hyundai Accent has a Class 1 1.25" hitch receiver. Our options are limited for those kinds of hitches, but this one definitely fits since it has a it has an 1.25" shank. This fits right into the hitch receiver and has an anti-rattle bolt and a lock to secure it. Hollywood Racks also has a lock that fits right into the bolt, and then you just put the lock on top of it. That way you can put or secure both your bikes and your bike rack. But anyways, this tightens down. I recommend doing what I do, which is I use a 3/4 inch socket with a wrench. That makes it so much easier to tighten down, so much faster. And once that's in place, you have the anti-rattle mechanism working. How does that work? Well, let's do a shake test. As I shake our bike rack, just to simulate that road sway and road vibration, notice how I'm really just moving the car at this point. That's because it's a really secure fit between both the bike rack and the vehicle. Of course, you'll still feel those speed bumps, you'll still feel those bumps in the road, but you will not get an extra rattle from an improper fit, meaning your bikes are a little bit more comfortable throughout your ride. So my personal thoughts about this bike rack is I actually like the design. Right where it sits in the product category of a bunch of different bike racks though, it's in the affordable and lightweight range, and this is definitely one of the most lightweight bike racks. I carry it around with one hand. It makes me feel so strong. I can install it into the cars easily, no help needed, and that's kind of cool. Now, as for the types of bikes that you can carry with this, you are kind of limited. Your weight capacity is 35 pounds. If you have heavier bikes, it's not going to fit with those. You also have that wing design, which can make it tricky just to find the best fit with your different bikes on there. So if you have, let's say, carbon fiber frame bikes, or if you have pricier bikes, you might want a more premium bike rack. I also like how you do get locks around your bikes to secure things, but I would have preferred integrated locks just to help deter theft more. So some other options, depending on what kind of bikes you have and what kind of experience you're looking for. One is going to be the Swagman Schnook that has the most weight capacity for your vehicle with 45 pounds per bike. Super sturdy, super heavy duty, but also a lot heavier than this and would be harder to store. A more premium bike rack would be the Kuat Transfer V2. That uses a front wheel clamp to secure the bike. Definitely something worth considering if you are looking for something faster, something more ease of use. Now, it's also a larger bike rack though, so you won't be able to store that inside of your trunk. So there's a bunch of different pros, a bunch of different cons with our different bike racks, and we have a bunch of videos explaining them right here at etrailer.com. So make sure to check those out if you're curious about those other bike racks. But right now, this was a quick look at the Hollywood Racks Destination 2 bike platform rack right here on our 2017 Hyundai Accent.